period after the release of the 1997 RPG classic Final Fantasy VII was an interesting time for its developer. By far the largest game Squaresoft had ever produced, both in scale and worldwide fan reception, it was really important to deliver a worthy follow-up title. Square released 3 spin-off titles shortly after FF7, the isometric tactical RPG Final Fantasy Tactics, and roguelike dungeon crawlers Chocobo Dungeons 1 and 2, but it wasn't until Final Fantasy VIII's release in 1999 that it really felt like they had created anything close to the bombast, scale, or unique identity of FF7. While FF8 sold exceptionally well and was critically acclaimed, it has over time become known as a bit of a polarizing title, with its own set of dedicated devotees and steadfast skeptics. The recent announcement from Square Enix, formerly Squaresoft, that there is unlikely to be an FF8 remake in the same manner of FF7's remake has left questions around the legacy of the original as a successor to the juggernaut that is FF7. We're here today to make an argument that FF8 was a worthy successor to this title. I'm Jack from EXP Required, and here are 7 reasons why Final Fantasy VIII is great. Beware of spoilers ahead. First up, we have the cast. From party members to recurring enemies, the game features all manner of teenagers, from Zell, the insecure brawler quick to start a fight with a heart of gold, to Quistis, the would-be older sibling trying to set an example whilst failing to meet her own sky-high personal expectations, to Selphie, the transfer student involved in all kinds of after-school clubs just to try and fit in. Those you travel with have to balance being wet behind the ears youths with their responsibilities as Balam Garden's elite mercenary forces Seed. While it can be easy to brush off these characters as naive due to their age, they still manage to navigate the world and its problems, all the while remaining true to themselves with all of the successes and failures that go along with that. From troubled Sifa's deep-seated need to be accepted, leading him to constantly oppose the party, to the insular loner Squall learning to overcome the fear of losing those he cares for and growing into a leadership role like the brave lion he truly is. I guarantee you will see someone you grew up with reflected in at least one of these characters, maybe even yourself if you look hard enough. For our second entry, we have the spectacular minigame Triple Triad, a 2-player card game that takes place on a 3x3 grid with 5 cards per hand. Easy to play and difficult to master, most people in the game can be challenged to a game of cards no matter what's going on around you, from whiling away the hours in prison to research in space. The standard rules are simple: any high number trumps a low number and flips the opponent's card to belong to you. Whoever ends up with the most cards wins. Not content with playing for fun, an entirely optional side quest is dedicated to finding and beating all the members of the elite Balam Garden Card Club, the CC group, with the identity of each member unknown until they deem you worthy enough to play cards with. Just who is the king of cards, and can you beat them? Triple Triad's legacy is so enduring that it was brought back for the online title Final Fantasy XIV, with matches able to be played across the world and even against other players. As of the latest expansion, Dawn Trail, there are a whopping 425 cards to collect in-game, perfect for those not satisfied with Final Fantasy 810. In the original, just make sure not to let the random rules spread throughout the region. Trust us on that one. Thirdly, we have Final Fantasy VIII's first optional boss, Diabolos. Your first chance of fighting this literal demon is right after graduation, when the headmaster gives you a magic lamp and tells you to take care while using it. Take care indeed, with Satan living in it. Up until this point in the game, all the battles have been pretty straightforward, even if you're a newcomer to the junction system. Diabolos challenges your understanding of the game, using gravity spells to reduce the party's HP to critical levels, before picking you off one by one with physical attacks. By the way, when he does his physical charge, he lets out a roar which still haunts my nightmares to this day. The unprepared will have their day, week, month, or even year ruined. When you finally beat him, the field message that pops up has Diabolos say, "Too much sleep, too weak." Just like me before the first coffee of the day. The 5th Guardian Force or summon of the game you can obtain at this point, the menu puts him in the 6th slot, hinting that the developers knew most players wouldn't attempt to fight him until much later on in their playthrough. Diabolos is awesome, not only because he's the best summon in the game, but because you have to actually be good at Final Fantasy VIII to finish him off. No button mashing your way through this one. Our 4th entry is all about time travel. Just when you thought things were too normal, you get flung into the past, or the future. The main antagonist Ultimisia is trying to compress time into a single point to grant herself absolute power, and a byproduct of trying to stop this is secondary character Alone sending the party's consciousness into the past to witness the story of Laguna, a kind-hearted, laid-back soldier fighting a war now long ended. These dream world sequences are sprinkled throughout the story, allowing you to see key points in Laguna's life, from parking in the middle of the street playing hooky from War, to getting lost in an excavation site, to accidentally fighting a dragon. Whilst not the first title in the series to have time travel as a plot element, it is the first to feature it so prominently. Final Fantasy I's 4 Warriors of Light must break a time loop to save the world too, but FF8 marries its plot to its characters, allowing you to get to know every one of them and really care about the conflict they're involved with. Next up is the Deep Sea Research Facility, right in the southwesterly point of the world, only accessible towards the end of the game with the use of the spaceship Ragnarok. The location is a secret, not found on the world map, and the actual research within only hinted at. Other than trying to find another way to draw and use magic, there's nothing to indicate what actually went on here, until you go inside, that is. Home to the Guardian Force Bahamut, and infested with monsters, the claustrophobic facility has you crawl through elevator shafts and conserve steam pressure in order to eventually open the doors at the very bottom, and has obviously been recently added to the ruins of what used to be a sprawling civilization. Opening these doors throws you into maybe the best boss fight of the game, and at the same time tells you precisely what happened to the absent researchers' Ultima weapon. Not knowing if everyone was killed or they simply sealed it away and fled, leaving you to stumble across it entirely by accident is quite possibly the closest Final Fantasy has come to an outright horror plot, and boy is it effective. Next up is the ultimate evil, Final Exams. Just when you thought yours were bad, Squall and Co are sent into an active military exercise to help liberate the city of Dollet from the Galbadian military. After beating what appears to be the final boss of the mission, a giant monster living at the top of the communications tower, the party is informed that they have 30 minutes to evacuate via their landing craft, which wouldn't be an issue, except the opposing forces send a giant mechanical spider to chase you down. Codenamed XATM-092, this robot is the strongest enemy you will have met up to this point, constantly repairing itself once it falls in battle. While it can be defeated or evaded by hiding in the local pub, doing so deprives you of one of the best FMVs in the game. Watching Squall trip on the beach, inches from safety, about to be utterly annihilated, when mild-mannered Quistis appears in the nick of time to take it down with heavy machine gun fire, allowing you to beat hasty escape, all set to blood-pumping chase music. All that for a final grade. Finally, for me, the best moment in FF8, it has to be Squall's speech to Balam Garden as they go in for the attack against their enemy Galbadia. Up to this point in the story, Squall has been quite frankly a miserable loner, pushing people away in the name of self-protection despite their best efforts. Here he finally embraces his fate, stepping up to become the leader everyone has wanted him to be for some time. The speech itself is set to an uplifting track called The Oath, and while awkward in places, is so genuine from such a reticent character who frequently allows you, the player, to see his inner thoughts and rarely says them aloud. Best of all is seeing his friends celebrating around Garden, delighted that he's finally opening up, not just to them, but to the rest of Garden as well, taking charge in a moment that should go down as one of the greatest Final Fantasy has to offer. So that was 7 reasons why FF8 is great. Of course there's loads more, but listing them all would be listing every point in the game. Please like and subscribe, and share your favourite parts in the comments below. If you'd like to hear more Final Fantasy discussion, we also have a podcast link below too. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.